get started, probably I figure not everyone's going to know exactly who you are. Do you want to give a quick introduction?
Sure.
To start off? Okay. I think that's smart. So tell everyone a little bit about what you do and what you've been doing lately.
Sounds good.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, we're all set up. Yeah, I'm just going to edit everything. We're recording the whole thing.
Okay.
So.
Hey, I'm Jason Swenk, and I help marketing agency owners all around the world grow their agency faster and easier. And I didn't do that forever. Back in 1999, I started a marketing agency, and I actually started by accident. One of my friends looked like Justin Timberlake, designed a website called In Shit, got popular. Someone offered me to pay them money, and grew that agency up to an 8-figure agency. 12 years later, it eventually sold it and kind of fell into this role of what I'm doing now. And now I just kind of document everything we're doing and put out information to help people.
So do you need to look like Justin Timberlake to get an 8-figure agency? I'm just asking for a friend. I don't know.
Well, you need a friend that looks like Justin Timberlake.
Okay.
Gotta know somebody.
Yeah, so that's a good business practice then. It's good to have. Okay, so I know I saw you at Traffic and Conversion. I've been following you for a couple of years. I know you're getting into, like you said, documenting and putting systems in place. So I'm going to guess most business owners don't have the kind of systems in place they need. Let's give like an overview definition. Like what kind of systems are we talking? Why is it so important?
Yeah, well, for a number of different years, we struggled. We were always profitable, but we didn't grow at the pace we wanted. And what I found out later on, kind of looking back, right? Because when you're in the weeds, you just can't see through the weeds. And I realized that having the right systems in place is the difference between you struggling or growing your business faster and easier. And a lot of people start off with the wrong thing. So, like, for example, a lot of businesses want to start off with lead generation. But if you don't have the right foundation and the right systems before you get to the lead generation, you're going to fail miserably or you're going to struggle. So, for example, like the first system would be clarity. So like my 2 businesses I told you about, I kind of fell into it, right? So I didn't have that clarity of where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, or who my audience looked like. Like literally, I didn't even know what an invoice was. When my first client asked me to send him an invoice, I was like, I don't know what an invoice is. So I didn't have that clarity of what to do. And once I figured out, all right, this is where I want to go, now I can communicate that to the rest of my team. Because what I found is if I didn't have clarity, my team sure didn't have clarity. And then they were going to make decisions based on what's better for themselves versus what's better for the actual business. Or another kind of telltale sign that you didn't communicate your vision or have that clarity is your employees and your team is always coming to you to solve problems or to be like, what would you do? Because they don't have that tool in order to kind of go forward. And then the other thing too in that clarity is who are you going after? Like specifically, and don't tell me small business, right? If you say small business, you're crazy because it's just too wide of a market and you don't know what their biggest challenge is. And so when you get that clarity, now you know exactly what you need to do, who you need to go after, and then what to put out. And then you can kind of get into the next system, which I call positioning, right? And you got to position your business in the right way. Everybody usually positions their business in the wrong way where they say, they beat on their chest going, look at me, right? Look how good I am, and look at my awards, look at what we can do for you and all that kind of stuff. When you do that, your focus is on yourself. It's like if we met at a conference and you came up to me and you just started telling me everything about you, I've been like, dude, I need to get the hell away, right? This is the worst conversation ever because it's not focused on me. Yeah. But if Brittany came up to me and started asking me questions, I'd be like, this is the best conversation in the world because it's focused on me.
Yeah. Well, that's. Did you see Donald Miller, Traffic and Conversion? That's part of his. Be the guide, not the hero.
Yeah, so he's spot on with the hero analogy, right? Perfect.
Yeah, that's it. I thought he was really interesting. I'd seen him a couple times, and to your point, that was a great concept. So I guess the big question for a lot of business owners is going to be, if we're starting out, well, where would you start then? Are we building a customer avatar? Are we just getting real specific about who we're going after? What's that first step? Because, a lot of people, what's that old analogy with the caterpillar, like what leg do you move first, and that's what gets caught. Like, so where do we start?
Well, if you're starting out, you got to try everything because you're starting out. You don't know what you like, so it's kind of like going to a buffet. Like you got to try everything and be like, "Ooh, I don't like that." Stay away from that. Or man, I like those, so I'm going to save room next time and eat that. So you got to kind of try everything because when you're starting out, you don't know what you're good at. You don't know what you have passion. You don't know what you're an expertise in, or you don't know what's the most profitable. So there's a learning curve in there, and no one can tell you who you need to go after. And I always tell people too, if you pick it based on the passion and your expertise, then you're going to be all right. Because if you would do it for free, then it's never going to be work. It's like, the Richard Bransons of the world and all those people is like, find something that you love and you'll never, have to work a day again or something like that. I probably butchered it.
No, I think
you're right,
pretty close, yeah. And I actually, my first business, I did that the exact opposite, and I can agree that that's 100% true. Because all I tried to do was get everyone else to take care of my business because I didn't like it. And of course, that didn't work out as well as it should have. So
exactly,
I understand that. So when it comes to systems, what's the first system we need to put in place as a business owner?
So the first system is clarity, right? You have to have that clarity, right? The second system is positioning, right? You have to position your business in the right way. And the easiest way to change the focus is by asking questions.
Okay.
Like if you went to my website, my about page, jasonswenk.com/about, I don't mention anything about me until the very bottom. Mm-hmm. Like I start off with questions. And I say, are you struggling with lead generation? Are you struggling with scaling your business? Well, if you are, you're in the right place. And then I tell them what we believe, and then it goes into the story later on. So the easiest way to change that focus and position yourself is ask questions for what they want or what they're struggling with.
Okay, so if I'm starting out, are you recommending that I go to customers and ask them questions, or should I have my staff ask me questions to say what are we about, or who's our ideal customer? How do you work at getting that clarity? Is I guess what I'm asking.
Well, once you know who you're targeting, so let's say we're targeting lawyers,
okay,
right? And so the questions, whenever I say ask questions, yes, it's in like if you're in the sales conversation, I would always challenge my salespeople, be like, how many questions can you ask? And like we'd have competitions. And then even on the website, like if I could get questionmark.com as a URL, I would buy that today. Because my whole website is a question.
Yeah.
Like everything. It's always asking questions because as human beings, we're programmed to answer them. And it's putting the focus back on them versus like I could say on my website, hey, do you want to know how I built a successful agency? No one cares about that. But I'm like, do you want to know how you can build a successful agency? There's a difference.
Absolutely. Okay, so then the other side, because I'd imagine this happens to a lot of business owners too, you're already in the mix, you're already in the weeds. You know you need to put some processes in place. You know you need to get this done. Where do you start, and how do you do it if you feel like you don't have time already?
Well, if you feel you're too busy and you don't have time, you're not charging enough.
Okay.
I've heard that.
So charge more. Yeah, I know that's one of your...
Yeah, so, I always laugh. Like, people are like, I'm too busy. I'm like, well, raise your prices. They were like, but you don't even know what we charge. I'm like, well, you said you're too busy. You're either saying yes to too many things. Like, I heard Johnny Ive did a speech I was watching a little while ago. And Steve Jobs, Johnny Ive is lead designer, head of design for Apple, and helped Steve on a number of different things if you don't know who he is. And Steve Jobs obviously created Apple, created this whole world, right? And Steve Jobs would always go to Johnny. He goes, what did you say no to today? Because he knew Johnny was one of the key employees there. And Johnny was a pleaser, and he's always say yes to too many things. But if you say yes to too many things, you don't have that focus. And that's the beauty about what Johnny was saying about Steve. He had complete focus. So he knew where he wanted to go. He knew what he needed to do, and he would block everything else out. And saying no to the things you want to do is what you need to do.
Okay. Interesting. So raise prices so we're less busy, say no to more, get clarity of focus, document everything. I mean, I know you said you were doing that. Is that something we need to be doing too? Is that how we figure out how to go forward and grow?
Yeah, I mean, well, once you know where you're going, right, and you have that long term, like a lot of times too, when business owners get into what I call like overwhelm, right? Mm-hmm. They're stressed out, and you're stressed out because you're not prepared. You're not prepared because you're overwhelmed. And so what the people I work with, when they go into overwhelm or they start showing signs for that, I say, just make a list. Make a list of everything you feel you need to get done. And then on right to the column to the right, start going and ranking them in priority, right? Saying, how important is this to the long-term vision, like the long-term impact, short-term impact, medium, and low? And it's like a great analogy I heard. I don't remember who did this. Let's say you have two glasses. This is not a glass.
I do like that you have props, though. I mean, that's great.
Right? I got props,
yeah,
right?
I like that.
Here, this is a glass.
Okay.
Okay. And let's say here's a camera lens. So let's say there was not a candle in here. If we put this in here first, right, and then we took 50 pebbles and put it on top of this, it's going to overflow. Now, if we put this in first, or I'm sorry, put the pebbles in first, then this, it would kind of be like this, right? It would overflow. If you did it reverse, it would fit perfect. Meaning, if you do the big impact items first, that's what you need to do. And too many of us are doing the little items like checking email, the little tasks to make us feel better. Like, we got 5 things done today. Well, you got 5 really crappy things done today that mean nothing else. So you got to make that list and then just do the biggest items. Like, I always tell people, focus. If you break out focus for each letter, finish one commitment till success. That's it. And that's the biggest thing I think that holds people back is we're just saying we're doing the wrong things first rather than doing the things that we should be doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a Friday. I usually
Yeah, I think a lot of people are doing what's right in front of them is the problem because they don't have that clarity. They don't have that focus. Everything's laid out. And when I did do a brief stint in corporate America, I went through Six Sigma training, and it was almost like triage. They're like, what's the biggest problem that shows up the most frequently? Address that first, just like you're saying. You know, and that was the main focus of their whole training was whatever's having the biggest impact that's showing up the most. Like, pay attention to that. Stop paying attention to all the little things at the bottom of the curve, you know, which is what's easy to do because it's what's in front of us. Like you said, you can get to a point where your employees are asking you all day how to solve stuff rather than putting those systems in place where they can do it themselves.
And I think the other thing, too, is with me, I know this is with me. I don't know about other people, but I really don't have hesitation. So when I come up with an idea to do a podcast, I will literally just go execute on it. And that was 3 years ago. And that was one of the best marketing things I've ever done. Or like literally on the 3rd year anniversary of the podcast, I was like, I got to step it up. So 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm going to vlog almost every day. Like, no hesitation. Like, my people that work for me were like, what? I'm like, we're doing it. And so, you know, it's just, I think if you know where you're going, you can say no, and then don't have hesitation on the things that you know you need to do in the long term. I think all of you watching will get there a lot quicker.
Well, I think probably what you're saying is if you have that clarity, it's easier to also sit back and say, is this bringing me closer to that, whatever I'm trying to get to? Rather than just doing things. You're like, I know where I'm going. So it's really easy to say, is this going to get me there? Is this not going to get me there? And is it worth the time? I would imagine that's probably pretty
I mean, you're just like, is this get me closer or not? Yeah. Like literally, if you drew a line over here and said, this is where I'm at, this is where I want to go, there's a gap. Yeah. And be like, how do we shorten this? Or how do we build the bridge? And, you know, it's just stop saying no to the stupid stuff.
That's no time wasters. Yeah. That's a big point out of this. Okay, and then the other big thing is how do you find a friend that looks like Justin Timberlake? I mean, if we need one of those, what's the process for that?
You're lucky, I guess. He had hair and everything. I remember, we'd go to the bars and clubs, and they'd escort us right in. I'm like, this is awesome.
Okay, so once we've taken the time to get clarity and we're putting processes in place, anything else that we really need to focus on, or is that going to be a game changer enough? Huh?
The offer, right? And this applies more to service-based businesses, right? So now that we have our clarity, we have our positioning, now it's all about your offer, right? And a lot of us pitch marriage right off the bat, right? They literally like walk up to you and be like, you want to marry me? I'm like, no, right? And so you got to kind of think about how can we make it an easier decision for someone to work with you and slice off part of your core service, and they're going to work with you quicker. You're going to build trust if you do a good job. If you don't do a good job, you should be out of business. Yeah. And then, you know, you can stagger that and build what I call an offer ladder. Like everybody talks about funnels. Like I can't stand the word funnel because it's trying to take everybody the same place, all the way down. And then what happens? You hit the ground, you start digging. Like what? I'm like, just create a ladder that never ends, and you just keep going up and up. And so, that's the next system. And then you can get into prospecting and really figuring out and creating multiple channels. And I think a lot of people mess this up because they get really good at one. So let's say Google ranks you number one. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And all your business is all inbound from that. Well, now let's say the algorithms change or Google goes away or does something stupid, like it invents this AI person and he blows up Google, whatever it is, right? And now your whole business is at jeopardy. You don't have any other channels. So you need to build what I call an outbound channel. Yes, picking up the damn phone. I remember at my business, literally we would go through the phone book and we just, right? And we'd be like, no website. Oh, there we go. We'll call this guy. And the whole phone book was that way. So you need an outbound channel, and then strategic partnerships. Figure out who else is going after who you guys are going after, and then just laser focus on them.
And okay, so I think that's a good example for a lot of service businesses too. When you're approaching a strategic partner, do you have a recommendation for that? Is there one thing that seems to work best, or do you just reach out and say, hey, we're going after the same people in a different way, like?
Don't ask them to help you. It's like going to a bank and going, I'm going to withdraw without any money.
Yeah.
So you got to make deposits. So I get so many people. Bless their hearts. They will never go anywhere. They'll come to me like, hey, we're going after the same market. Can you blast your list for me? I'm like, no, because I don't know who you are, and you're an idiot for doing it that way. But if you were helped me out first, then hey, we're going after the same market, and I would love to introduce you to my audience, even if it's two people, right? They're like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to them. Then we have a relationship. You made a little deposit, and I'm more likely to help you out later on. And that's what you need to do. Or, what we did at our agency, we became some of the best partners in the world for with Microsoft on SharePoint. Same thing with Sitefinity on their content management system. So, we just made them look better. And then they, obviously helped us out after that. So.
Okay. So you almost need to come up with an offer for that too. I would imagine you're almost approaching them in a similar way. Like you said, I know in the industry there's Tripwire and Lead Magnet Speak, but you come up with that. So number one tip for coming up with a good offer up front.
Think about, it has to be easily digestible, needs to help them, needs to identify some kind of problem, and it needs to relate to your core service. It can't be like, I'll wash your car in order to design your website. Yeah. It'd be like I could imagine someone would do that. I know someone would do that. So.
I bet you someone out there has done that, especially in one of the markets. There's someone in California that's definitely happened, where you've got a web designer and a car wash attached to each other.
Of course, it would get a lot of attention. Be like, it may work.
Well, you know what? You would be skipping right to marriage. You'd be like, I'm going to wash your car, and now let's talk about getting married. It's like, you see, I'm hardworking and reliable, and I can make your car look pretty. Maybe we can do something from there.
Yeah, that's right.
Like you said, it would be unique. You'd probably have to qualify what kind of car, though. Yeah. Well, I don't think it would be like washing somebody's 1982 Honda and then expecting a $30,000 website out of them.
That's true.
But you never know. Some of those people, it could work out. Okay, so any other big thing we need to share with our business owners today?
Well, you really need to, this is transitioning from an owner to a CEO, I think. And then this is, if you guys are watching it, you guys probably want to grow faster and scale. So you got to kind of figure out, how do I transition to the CEO? Because a lot of times when I was running my business, I'd be like, I just need to hire a CEO because I don't know what the hell is going on, and I'm a crappy CEO. I'm literally just in the weeds. But then when I started setting up the systems that I walked you through, and there's a lot of other systems, but those are mainly the foundation, the brick systems. But I really wanted to transition my role into the CEO. And so really at the end of the day, what I needed to do was set the vision and direction and communicate it to my team often. Okay, if you ask any of the big CEOs, that's really what they're doing all the time. set the vision, direction, and communicate it. The other thing is you need to coach and mentor just your leadership team. So a lot of times as you're building your business, you're coaching everybody, and that's just not scalable. And you can't, every quarter you can't have your coaching calls with everybody, like especially as you start adding. So you got to do that to your leadership team. And you're not just coaching them on the business side, you're also hopefully coaching them on the personal side as well, because if you can make them better, right, you're going to win and they're going to stick with you. I mean, that's what we always try to do. And I always felt like a leader always was there to inspire rather than motivate.
Okay.
And show them what is possible in what they're doing. And then the other thing is to understand the financials, right? Like, I'm just saying understand. Like, you don't have to be a number nerd and spreadsheet geek or whatever. Like, I'm horrible at that stuff. But I know if I can go to my accountant or bookkeeper and be like, what's the profit margin? How much profit did we make? And that's all that matters. Who cares about your top line revenue? Yeah. Like, I know businesses that are 50 million that they're 1% profit. I'm like, you suck. I was like, why even do it? But they tout like, we're huge. I'm like, you suck. I'm like, you need to fix that. Like, the margin should be better. And they're thinking too small, I think, right? I think if you guys can think bigger and don't hold yourself back. Like, I heard another good story. I can't remember who told me this, but they had a 5K race. You know how, like, they give out bagels, right, at the end of the race, right? And the one guy went to the other guy and goes, dude, there's free bagels. Let's go get the free bagels. And his friend was like, dude, there's a huge line. I don't want to go get bagels. He's like, dude, free bagels. He's like, no. Like, I don't want to wait on the line. And then he stepped back and he realized, he goes, some people see the barriers to getting to what they want. And he was like, I'm willing to wait, be patient, and get my bagel. The other guy just saw barriers, and he tried to project it on the other guy. So you got to be careful of this as a CEO as well. And then, the other thing is just assist sales, don't do all of it, and build key relationships. And if you can achieve that role, then you know you're the CEO. And then the next cool thing that happens is you go through depression. Because then you're there, you feel that, what to do. Right, and you do. Because what you find is your company doesn't need you for what you used to do. Yeah. So you're completely depressed, and you don't realize you went into this role that you were building, which is pretty funny. And then you realize, and you're like, cool, I'm the greatest leader in the, since sliced bread, and then, whatever. So that's what happened to me, other than thinking sliced bread. So. Okay.
And then what did you go from there? Just pull out of depression and keep building key relationships? Huh? I'm sorry, I missed that. Was that another business?
Yeah. Well, when I sold it too, you go through another depression. You're like, what next? You're like, cool, I can go sit on the beach, and then you're like, that's boring.
Yeah. I remember the first Rich Dad Poor Dad book he talked about. He's like, once you get your business settled, you need to take a year off, because that's going to happen, and you kind of need to let everything reset anyway. So it's interesting that you kind of went right through that.
I literally took like 3 days off, and I was completely bored. I was like, I got to work. I got to do something.
Well, I would imagine. I mean, if you spent all that time building all that stuff up, it makes sense. So, well, I think it worked out okay then. Right?
Yeah, it worked out well. Okay. I'm not complaining.
So one more question, because you touched on it real quick. You said assist sales and building key relationships. So are you talking like get out to networking events and meet the players that they're going to eventually contact, or just try and be a protagonist for your business and get the name out there? Or are you talking specific steps?
You need to be the face of the organization, right? So you need to build your own personal brand. I truly believe this, right? The best person, I think the best companies in the world do this, right? Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, right? They're all putting out lots of content around a particular individual. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what if that individual goes down? Steve Jobs, Apple was fine, right? I mean, you should start branding the other employees as well. Like Wistia, the video company, does a very good job. Like, they create a number of different videos with a lot of their key employees. So you can do that, but I still think the leader needs to lead by, putting themselves out there.
Okay, great. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And Gary, I remember I read one of Gary Vaynerchuk's book on a plane, and that was basically his gist of it too. Was either way, your personal brand, no matter what you're doing right now, you need to build it. It just makes sense.
Yeah, brand is perception, and you can either help create it, or you can just hope that your perception is the way you want to be perceived. So, and it is perception. So you got to portray what you're wanting to portray. And the thing is I watched this. I got the Steve Martin course on being funny or something like that, and he was sitting on a plane with someone that was going to act, and she's like, "Well, I don't know how to get this role." And he's like, "Just be yourself." And then he realized, he goes, "That was the worst advice ever, because no one knows who they are."
Yeah.
Right? I mean, literally, you're like, be yourself. Like, who is that? Like, you're looking around, like,
5 years of listening later,
and you morph, and you just got to portray what you want to portray.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
Well, I think that's what most people end up doing. And then, otherwise, you just keep a Justin Timberlake lookalike for a backup plan, right? Is that how it works?
That always works.
So
and then my other best friend looked like, who is that popular singer with the curly hair? Kruber? I can't remember now, but everybody would mistake him for that famous singer. Like, he was like, not an opera singer, but like a contemporary singer that was really young.
Okay.
I can't remember now. So, bad story.
No, it works. I mean, and now we know that we need to go find friends where you're finding friends, because obviously there's a benefit.
Yeah, exactly. You get on their backs, and then you just ride that horse. And if you're like me, I just got back from Costa Rica. Horses don't like me. The horse threw me off into the water.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so make sure you ride a smaller horse, less to hit the ground.
If it makes you feel any better, apparently my parents' honeymoon, they went horseback riding, and the horse threw my father and broke his shoulder. So at least you didn't have that happen. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah,
so.
I was fine. I was like, I laughed.
And it wasn't your honeymoon.
After, I was like, all right, Mr. Horse, do you feel bad about yourself? And the horse was like, I would do it again.
Well, at least he's honest. Getting credit for that. Okay,
horse.
So for everyone that wants to keep following up with you and maybe get more involved in some of the things you have to offer, where would you like us to send them to?
2 places.
Okay.
So I'm going to totally confuse you. Go to jasonswank.com. Swank is spelled with an E. I'm not related to Hillary or that awful magazine in the 80s. And then the other part is go to YouTube and go to youtube.com/jasonswank. And 2 weeks ago I started vlogging. I'm going to do this for a long time. And you can kind of track and see what everything that I'm doing, which is kind of scary, but it will kind of document the process and kind of lead by example. And the cool thing is like I did a vlog today. I'm literally about to go out and I'll film people and ask them, how do I make my vlog more exciting? Because I had an epiphany. Like, I don't leave the house much. I'm an introvert.
Okay.
So like I could be in my house all the time. And I'm like, dude, I'm doing a vlog of filming me talking to people in my house. Like, in this room. I'm like, how boring is that? And then the music I picked yesterday literally put me to freaking sleep. And so
what'd you pick?
I'm making it a road trip, and I'm going out to the supermarket. I'm going to interview old people and be like, how can I make this more exciting? I want your thoughts on this vlog, which they will have no idea what the vlog is. And then I'll go to like a tech village, but I'm taking it on the road.
So is this how you're getting more funny from the Steve Martin course? You're going to interview old people about things they don't know what they are?
Well, the thing is like going through the Steve Martin course, it's just all about looking for the funny things and just trying to build it over time. Like, he'll tell you, he goes, I'm not funny. He goes, I'm able to pick it out and then articulate it. And I think that's what everybody needs to do. Like, and you don't, like, I don't try to be funny. And I think if people try to be funny, then it's forced and then they look stupid. But that could be funny too. So you never know. At the end of the day, I'll break my advice that Steve Martin said to that one person, whatever, is be yourself. But whoever that 8 people are.
Maybe you'll figure it out. Who knows? And last question, Britt wanted to know what music you picked because she has trouble sleeping. So.
What music do I like?
Now that you picked for your video.
It was really boring. You said that you picked the other day.
Oh, gosh. I'll have to send it. We'll go to the vlog number 10.
Okay, cool, yeah. Well, we'll put some links
on
under the video so everyone can get there, and we'll go check it out, too.
Watch those last 2 vlogs, and you'll...
Perfect. Well, thank you very much,
Yeah,
and thanks for all the great information. I know we appreciate it. I'm sure everyone watching this will too.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Bye.
Cool. Good.
Thank you, sir.